you're probably the last person that saw these three girls alive. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the coincidence that comes into play with Stark County is you're probably the last person that saw Gene and Bobby alive.
What?
On June 12, 2017, the bodies of Suzanne Taylor and her two daughters, Kylie and Taylor, were discovered by Taylor's boyfriend in their home in North Royalton, Ohio.
And I arrived and all the cars were in their exact spots. So it was very weird that all their cars were there and no one was home. And I later learned that she missed the emergency softball practice because her mom helps run it, and Taylor's one of the best pitchers in Ohio, and she coaches leagues. So I knocked on the front door and was yelling her name because I was concerned that her mom was holding her there, not letting her go anywhere. Mm-hmm. And no one would answer, and the dog wasn't barking, which is very strange because they never take the dog anywhere. So I circled the house. All the blinds were shut, all the windows were closed to what I saw. And I was really concerned. So my father, because we do house reconstruction and stuff like that, oftentimes they don't give us keys. All the outside bars and padlocks are locked from the previous owner. So for that reason, I have a lockpick set that I use to get into those for demolition and rehab purposes. And they have a Latin saying in law, what is necessary is legal, and for either medical emergency or to help her, I decided to pick-lock the front door, which was very easy to do. It was locked, it was dead-bolted, which is only done from the inside. Mm-hmm. And from what I've heard, her mom didn't give a key to anyone except for her girls, not even the landlord, because they wanted to list the house. I heard she wouldn't even give them a key. So the lock was a very cheap lock, easily opened.
How long did it take you to open it?
3 seconds. I just slid in the pick and it opened right up. And then I had to use a screwdriver because I know that that deadbolt is very sticky and tight, so I just turned the tumbler with it. And when I walked in, I heard the dog barking from Suz's closed bedroom door, which was never latched shut. She would always swing it closed when Scott was there when she was changing, but it was never latched shut, not one time. So the animals could get in and out, and I found that very strange. The house was silent, the lights were on. You could hear the AC running. It was kind of damp and had a musty smell. And I opened up the bedroom door, and there was a comforter covering the entire bed. But judging by the build, Kylie wearing a teal blue shirt, her arm and leg were hanging off the side of the bed. I knew that they were dead, at least one of them. The bed didn't look right. I assumed there were others there, but I couldn't bring myself to look. So all I touched was the door handle walking in, the screen door, the main door, and then her bedroom door, and then I turned right around and walked out. Didn't touch or look at anything else. I couldn't bear to do it. So the whole time I was on the phone with Scott, which was her previous ex-boyfriend.
At what point did you call him?
So
Scott was Suzanne's ex-boyfriend. The couple had parted ways months prior. However, Scott continued to try and mend their relationship. He stayed in contact with Suzanne and her daughters up until they suddenly stopped communicating with everyone.
Other things that I should have noticed was when I knocked on the door, I didn't hear Eris. The Eris is her dog. And normally you knock on the door, Eris will go and start barking. And Eris didn't bark. And I thought, well, maybe I just didn't knock hard enough, but I didn't think it was a big deal. And I had the thought of going over the window and looking in, but her bedroom window before I accidentally locked her out. And she climbed in through the bedroom window once, so I figured I could go in there. But the kids were with me, and I was like, this isn't worth getting in trouble for, and I should have.
So when you went up and you knocked and you approached, so the dog doesn't come, is there anything else that you see or observe?
Just the fact that George's van is there, the door is shut, and the door is locked. So her and George had been fighting. We'll talk about that, I'm assuming.
Scott tells police that before Taylor's boyfriend discovered the bodies, he had gone to the home to see why his calls were going unanswered. Before he left, he noticed that the van of a man named George Brinkman was parked in a very strange spot.
And then the van.
And then the van. The van was not parked in the driveway, it was parked in front of the dining room window.
Okay, is that odd?
Yes. So normally, at least when I'm there, and I've seen him before, he'll park over by where Taylor's car is. And when we were both there, it'd be one after the other. So the spot in front of Taylor's car was open.
Like you see in the grass?
He was in the grass, yes. Back, so,
So he pulled in nose first, or was he back then?
back then. So you have the house and the bedroom.
Is that typical?
No. And his car's right here. There's like a bush right here. The porch is right here. And Susie's car is right here. But so he's backed in. And here's I call it the dining room. The dining room table's right here.
Okay.
He was backed in, so facing out
In the grass.
in the grass.
That's odd. Tell me about George.
All right. So George is a friend of hers, apparently from childhood. I met him. He lived in his van, or I believe still does live in his van. And she said that he always had a crush on her. So she said that he would constantly ask her, "How do I get a girl like you?" So there was that kind of context. So then I start coming around, and it's the December time frame, and she's like, "I'm not going to let a friend freeze to death in his van on the street." So he was spending a lot of nights at her house. And then when I started coming along and spending nights, he was like, "No," it kind of went away. Apparently, over the past few months, that relationship has gotten worse. And she's like, he doesn't talk to me. When he does, he's a complete ass. And it got to the point where normally we went to Disney at the end of last month, and she says, normally I would ask George, and she's like, he won't do it. So as to where he wouldn't even help watch the dog.
Wow.
Then she even made the comment that, well, it's probably just as well, because if he did, he'd probably put my underwear on his head and dance around.
Jeez.
Because she was pretty convinced that he had a thing for her.
Okay.
So I never saw any moves on her.
Okay. He never talked to you about it?
Not about Susie, no.
Okay.
At the beginning, apparently, he said, "Yeah, you should go out with her." But then, what it seemed like was when the relationship took hold so fast, he was not happy at all.
Okay.
In January, I Facebook friend him. He has a George Brinkman account. I went to Facebook friend him, and he blocked me after that, and then stopped using that account and went to this other account called Crimson Guard.
Okay.
Because I tried to Facebook friend him, which I thought that was completely odd. He's not afraid to threaten to beat someone.
Did he ever threaten you?
He's not threatened me. He's threatened Dale, but
Okay.
Dale may have needed a beating at the time. But
What about Susie?
he's never threatened Susie, and that I've seen.
Okay.
And I don't think she'd take it. So I haven't seen that, but I don't think he's all there. I just don't think his action. He seems like he's prone to violence. I haven't seen him physically do it, but I've had him in the house where he's like, "I'm gonna go outside and beat your ass," and that type of threat.
What's his background?
Trying to hold him back. They grew up together. I understand that he dropped out of high school his senior year to go to the military, and
You want branch? What he did?
I think it was the Army, is what somebody said, but
Okay.
I don't.
You don't know.
That's not firsthand knowledge, and
Okay.
I believe I got that knowledge after this case started.
Okay.
But I will tell you, I cannot reconcile the fact that his van was at the house with the door locked. It makes absolutely no sense to me.
Do you remember the exact time when that was?
Oh yeah,
I just want to go back to it again.
It was 4:29.
With this new information, the hunt for George Brinkman begins. It starts with a phone call to George where he promises to come in for an interview, but when he doesn't show up, the police find him and it ends in a 9-hour police standoff.
Yeah, good morning, Terrence and Karina. This standoff ended about 30 minutes ago, and we just spoke with the Brunswick Police Department, getting us details about how this standoff ended. They tell us that the SWAT teams did a tactical entry into this home here on Valley Forge Drive in Brunswick. They say the front door was unlocked, and the man inside, they have now identified him. His name is George Brinkman. He is 45 years old. They are now naming him as a suspect in this North Royalton degree-1 triple homicide. They say they went into the house and they got him out peacefully. He walked out of the house in handcuffs. There were no shots fired in this, but they do say that that George did have a pistol inside the house during this 9-hour standoff with police.
When George was finally in custody, the police put him into an interrogation room to see what he has to say.
I'm gonna pull a seat around for you here.
Oh, sorry. That's all right, man. That's all right. We'll have a seat over here.
I got you some water. Would you like some coffee?
No, Pepsi's what helps keep my blood sugar regulated.
Okay. Do you want to sit tight for 2 seconds and I can see if I can get you a Pepsi?
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere.
So, let me get you that Pepsi. If you feel like you're hungry or something, because I know you got the diabetes, please let me know. If you'd like to use the restroom, please let me know. They're going to look around and see if somebody has a cigarette, and we can definitely take a smoke break later. Is that cool? We'll work on that. That part is kind of a work in progress.
The detective knows that George is a very aggressive person, so they begin the interrogation by being as friendly as possible. They remove his handcuffs and offer him a drink and promise him a cigarette.
So we can just talk openly. If you want to stop at any time, ball's in your court. But I'd like to just kind of discuss what's going on and why you're here. And
I'd like to know why I'm here. I mean,
can we start with this part so we can discuss things openly? And
if I sign that, it's not going to come back and say, well, you said you didn't want an attorney, right?
you can stop. You can stop at any time. Yeah, at any time. So just sign right there.
I'm not used to this.
You do lefty. Can I ask you a question? If I uncuff your hand,
I'm not going anywhere.
That's yeah. Let's get you more comfortable. Okay.
Like I told the officers last night, I would never point any weapon I had at them. They're doing their job.
I appreciate that.
I
I have to ask you. That's
know.
So, but I respect that.
Thank you.
Is that more comfortable? I kind of want to just figure out what brought you here today. What is?
I guess
And I'll caveat that I don't have a lot of information on that. So sometimes we'll come in and help some of the local PDs with some issues. I'm getting here kind of late in the game, so you can just kind of explain.
I guess I was supposed to talk with Detective Rybicki. I don't want to say her name wrong. Yesterday, and I didn't make it any get back from where I was till late. I was tired. I planned on coming in. Next thing you know, I've got officers swarming the door, and I barricaded myself in.
Because you were afraid?
Well, yeah, you see a bunch of cops coming up, and my biggest concern wasn't for me though; it was for the girl whose house it was, and the 2 dogs.
Well,
And once they were safe, then
Who are you staying with?
her name's Amy. I've known her since we were tadpoles, I guess. She's like 9 years younger than me.
Are you guys like? Is there like a family friendship?
Yeah, it's like
families?
family.
Oh, good. Okay.
Her and my mom. Her mom and my mom were best friends growing up. Her mom's the one that got my mom away from my abusive dad.
Okay.
And then they ran into problems. They stayed with us for a while.
Did you ever experience any type of abuse, or was it directed towards your mom, or was it a
It
little?
was directed towards all of us.
The detective spent some time asking George about his life leading up to this point. George claims that after high school he joined the military. After that, he did various jobs all over Ohio as he struggled to keep his head above water. He also spent time in prison, mostly for writing bad checks, criminal mischief, and disorderly conduct. Eventually, he would be forced to live in his van and do odd jobs in North Royalton.
What brought you here today? I'm trying to make that connection. So there was an issue with the police last night. What is that related to? Yeah, what's that related to?
Like I said, I thought I was supposed to talk to Detective Rybicki. My friend Sue and her 2 daughters, I guess were killed this weekend. And I know I saw Sue Saturday, and I saw the girls as I was pulling out of the driveway, and I guess I'm the last one to see them.
Okay.
And I guess her boyfriend found them. Taylor's, that's the oldest daughter.
Mhm.
Me and Taylor had this bond. It was ridiculous. I've known Sue since grade school. And I was there when Taylor was first born. We lost contact over the years.
Mhm.
And this recently got back in contact about 2 years ago. And me and Taylor hit it right off. I mean, it's like we never lost that bond she had when she was born. And then we were sitting there watching Jurassic Park. And I don't know if you've seen the movie.
Yeah.
Where the little Timmy's on the fence and we're yelling for him to jump, 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 jump.
Yeah.
And he gets blown off into the Dino Man. Well, she called me the Dino Man. Her name was Timmy from then on.
That's fine.
No,
What?
because
Let's talk.
I should have been there for Saturday. And that was it.
Don't. Just careful, man. Don't. Take a second.
Been eating me out this whole time.
George starts by describing his relationship with the three women by saying that they were like family. George then gets very emotional when he talks about how he should have been there for them and stopped whoever took their lives. George's acting doesn't faze the detectives at all because there is far too much evidence pointing in his direction.
You said something interesting to me. You said that you think you might be the last person to see them alive.
Yeah.
What makes you think that?
Well, I know when Sue and I were talking, I was having issues with staying around the area. I'd asked her if her and I could just talk because I didn't want Taylor to get upset if I was leaving. And she would have.
Leaving?
Yeah, I was tired. This happened because of work Friday.
Okay.
I got angry, I got upset. The project is not going like it should. And instead of hitting what was I thought was a fake wall, it was a real wall. Made of cement.
Okay.
Yeah. The real wall wins every time.
Yeah.
I found that out.
What was so stressful that made you want to hit the wall? Fake or I mean, a real one, but
the project's not going as fast. They really screwed us with the projects this year because we're supposed to start 2 in April and these 2 in May.
Mhm.
They put them all 4 together
in which month?
in May.
Okay.
So we had to find 2 other people to run the other 2 warehouses. Now Jason and I ran the main ones.
Mhm.
None of the carriers I usually have can work for me because they're working at the other warehouses because they're closer. And it's been doing this and me and Jason, he sounded a little pissed off on the phone because he is the boss, I understand. And it came down to I'm paying you sitting around and doing nothing, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you're right, I'm sorry, And then as soon as I hung up the phone, I just swung at the wall.
George was never asked what happened to his hand, but the first chance he gets, he explains what happened. George has what is called a boxer's fracture. As the name implies, it usually happens when a person punches an object at a high speed. What George didn't realize is that his story makes him appear far more aggressive, and it shows that he has a difficult time controlling his anger.
I don't obviously do it often.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that him saying that.
No, it didn't make me go completely bonkers.
No, it's upsetting.
I hold everything in on the inside. And then once in a while, usually I'll with the Skidda books there, I'll pretend, like I'm boxing because they're soft.
Yeah.
And that's it. I just turn around and just hit the wall. That was it. I soaked it. When I saw Sue Saturday, she gave me an ace bandage she had and said, you better wrap it and get it taken care of, and how she is. And I'm like, yes, Sue, okay. What are you doing later? Just to get her off track of it.
With Sue, so when did you learn that they were the victim of this tragedy?
When I was coming home from North Canton Sunday night.
Okay.
I think it was, I want to say it was around 8 when Taylor's boyfriend called me. I mean, I texted her during the day because when they go to softball, they have softball on Sundays. When they go to softball, they don't answer the phone.
Okay.
And
what time period is that?
If I had my phone, I'd have it.
Okay.
Sometime afternoon. That's all.
Okay.
I don't know what time their games are scheduled, but I just said, hey, thanks for keeping my head straight yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're at softball or not. I can't remember. Give me a text or a message later and we'll talk some more.
Okay.
And when I didn't hear from her, I didn't think nothing of it because sometimes we'll go a day or two or 4 or 5 without talking. And then I get the phone call from Dale and I'm like, no, you're joking, right? And he said no.
The detective is about to pull out a picture of the 3 women and show it to George. George's only defense is that he was so close to the family that he would be incapable of taking their lives. For this defense to work, he must show the detectives how much he really cared for them.
Just for my own understanding, who's who here? I'm not trying to upset you. I can tell that you were very close to them.
That's Kylie, that's Taylor.
Can you help us by kind of running through that day on Saturday? Just what you remember?
I know it's hard. It's the hardest thing.
Just run through.
I can tell you, Andy and I do this a lot. We get it, we understand. But you can help us. I mean, that's the thing. That's what we're here for. We're trying to figure it out. So your help is important. That's what we're talking about. Let me ask you this. Did you see Sue on Friday?
No.
No? Okay. So Saturday, you saw her Saturday. Okay.
I asked if it was okay if I come over around 1 because I work till about 12.
Okay. Did you do that? Do you remember, was that done by text message or what? Did you call her or how did that?
Text message, we never really talked on the phone.
Did you have anything to do with any of this? What happened to them?
We're gonna,
I have to ask that to
everybody. And I know you're.
I can tell that's
No.
okay. Good. And can you help us work through? Can you help us work through kind of? I'm still there. Thanks.
I'm just.
Relax. You understand? I got to ask that question, right?
Yeah.
George's response to being asked if he was the one who did it is a brief expression of anger, followed by the word no. George doesn't ask why they think he did it, and he doesn't ask if they have any leads on who might have done it. He simply says no. His reaction to the question could be a sign of panic. He may not be sure what the correct response is, so he grabs his Pepsi to give himself a few more seconds to think.
Can you run through to the best of your knowledge or your recollection what you recall. So Saturday, I guess is that the
What time do you get up on Saturday?
yeah. Start
Just
from the
run
beginning
through
of
your day.
Saturday.
I know it's hard, and I know you don't want to do that, but you know what? Like I said, it's all about help.
Around 7.
Do you remember? Did you
Get
get
to work.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, I had my Monster and my cigarette when I got up. Went to work, opened the warehouse, got everything organized. And then sat there and watched movies on my computer until somebody decided to show up.
Anybody contact you during that time? Did you,
Oh, I'm
send
sure.
text messages,
You mean them?
them, or anybody else? Do you remember?
And then when I leave the warehouse, I texted Sue that morning if we could talk. I said about 1 o'clock, and she said that's fine. She said the girls might not even be home by then. I told her I wanted to discuss what was going on with me and work and with Amy and with everything. Because I don't know, I was just having a bad day and I felt like Amy's house bitch. I'm sorry, but can I have a cigarette? That's big. I hate to say it again. Please.
Well,
And I'm a 2-pack-a-day smoker, so I'm kind of hurt.
can we get through Saturday? I'm sure we can do it.
Yeah.
I know. We can do that. I'm sure we can do it.
Alright, so I call Sue, text Sue, sorry, wrong word. Told her I'll be there at 1. I show up at 1 o'clock. As I'm backing my van into her front yard, her and her girls are pulling into her car. And I'm like, oh, alright, I don't really want to talk in front of, especially Taylor. Because Taylor is, she's very sensitive. So I didn't want to get her upset. I wasn't sure if she had plans with Dale that night. So I went inside. One of the girls had to use the bathroom. And then they said something about wanting to go to the mall. So I gave them $20 to go eat. Say, hey, can you give me to about 2, maybe 2:30 to talk to your mom? They're like, oh yeah, sure, not a problem, bye. Me and Sue talk.
What are you guys talking about?
I tell her about what's going on at work, how I think Amy's treating me. She tells me about her and her boyfriend Scott broke up. I'm like, okay. And then she started telling me about some guy that she was gonna hook up for dinner, and at that point I just zoned out because here she just broke up with Scott. She's already talking about dinner with another guy. And it hasn't even been a week yet.
That's kind of typical with her. Like,
she would do that. I mean, I don't.
what's your relationship with her? Were you guys ever
No,
romantic, or are you just like
Always
very
been
close
friends. Always only been friends.
Okay.
And we knew even back in high school it would never work anything other than friends.
George's narrative is that he was very close to Suzanne, but nothing more than friends, and he was okay with that. The detective asks George what type of person he thought Suzanne was. The detectives are looking for any motive George would have that would cause him to take their lives.
So, with Sue, is she a good mom?
Yeah.
She's a good mom?
I mean, if she can be a little overprotective.
Helicopter mouth. Hover.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit sometimes. She did have to know when they were in school what time her classes started, what time her classes let out, what time they ate, what time they did. I mean, she was a little too overprotective, but for the most part, she didn't have any issues. with him.
How is she as a person?
How is anybody as a person? I mean, she got her goods and her bads. I mean, it's
What
just
did you
sparks,
like about
money.
What annoyed
The
you?
whole, I hate to say it, but one guy to the other just because they had money.
Okay.
Now that's her personal preference.
Yeah.
But I don't want to hear about it.
No.
Yeah.
You guys have a problem? You're an adult, fix it. And I would tell her that. Hey, fix it yourself. You're an adult. I'm tired of trying to fix your problem. Well, come on. It's like, stop it.
Does she come to you a lot with her problems?
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't even get a good morning text and be like, I hate my life. I'm
Really?
like, really? Good morning to you too, sunshine.
Yeah.
And then she would tell me either her car was having problems, or she was having problems with Scott, or her boss was giving her hassles. It was just something different every day. And when she came back from Disneyland, it's not a hey, how you doing? I'm back. That was the worst trip ever. And all I said to her was like, I'm starting to realize you're never going to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And all expense. And all because Kylie said something, she'd never been to Disneyland. The dude looked at his wallet and paid for the trip in advance.
Sounds like a good dude.
Yeah. I kept trying to get her. I was like, you know what? Maybe you're too stuck up on Dave that you're ruining it with Scott.
Mm-hmm.
No. I don't do that. And then all I hear is about, I miss Dave. I think Dave traded you in for a short little Asian girl with 2 children.
Mm-hmm.
You were his side piece the whole time. You found out about it because you found out where he actually lived and went knocking on the door and she answered. I was like, most people would walk away from that and say, you know what, I learned my lesson.
Mm-hmm.
No. She wanted me to go over there and talk to him. She wanted me to follow him to work. I said, no.
That's annoying.
I said, no, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I said, you got to learn. You got to get over him. He is not worth it. Scott's a tremendously better guy than Dave ever was.
It seems that Suzanne was caught in the middle of a love triangle, and George was on the outside looking in. Friends of George told police that he was in love with Suzanne, but she considered George to be just a friend. George would watch Suzanne bounce between 2 men she claimed she loved, wishing that she would show him the same attention.
She helped me clear my head.
Also,
She convinced me that running away from my problems will never solve them. And yeah, I've heard it before.
trying to see what were you running away from, or what did she perceive that you were running away from?
Like I said, my work, the whole being the house bitch for Amy, not being able to get my own jump start on life. Every time I start to get ahead, something comes along and derails it, and I'm back to square one again. I have done square one so many times I can do it blindfolded with the backstroke. So it's nothing new. But she's told me that Taylor would be very hurt if I just up and left.
For the second time since sitting down with George, the detectives asked him if he had anything to do with the crime.
I have a cigarette now. I just need a cigarette. I have.
Well, just one last thing, just to reiterate, Alex, we'll see what you figure out. But this is why you're here, right? You kind of figured that out.
Yeah, I'm being blamed for it.
No, not being blamed for it. I'm going to ask you if you have anything to do with it.
Hell no.
Okay.
And I don't know if I can say this, but I'm already in trouble anyways. I don't give a shit. If I find a motherfucker who did it, I'm sorry. There ain't going to be no trial. You don't take Timmy from me. You don't take my best friend from me that I grew up with, or other daughter.
I get it. I have to ask. That's fine. I get it.
Who do you think could have done this?
I'll see
I don't know.
I'm just
I
asking
don't
you to
know
speculate.
anybody that would. She can be annoying, okay? Women are annoying. Guys are annoying. Not that annoying. Kept to herself mostly. Unless she needed something, then she would very, very politely ask. Taylor, she needs the goddamn chicken nuggets off your plate without even asking.
I'm gonna see that.
And I keep thinking, what if I would have waited another 15, 20 minutes and not left? What if I would have waited to talk with these two? But my whole thing is, if I would have stayed 15, 20 minutes, another 40 minutes.
When you're driving away, did you see anything suspicious?
No, like I said, I wasn't paying attention because I was wiping. I was in the neighbor's car, but that's it. There's no reason for it.
That's the thing we're trying to figure out.
While this interrogation was playing out, another double homicide was being investigated in the same area. This time, the victims were Gene John and his wife Roberta. The police believed that their deaths occurred shortly after Suzanne and her daughters were killed. What they found interesting was that George was a very close friend of the Johns. They also noticed that the bodies were covered in the same way Suzanne and her daughters had been when they were discovered. With this information, the police believed that George had gone on a rampage, and they were worried that there were more victims. Another detective is brought in to question George about his connection with the Johns. Watch how George reacts to hearing the detective mention the Johns. It's almost like he knew something might have happened to them, and he's waiting for the bad news.
I'm Deputy Kennedy from Stark County Sheriff's Office, okay? And I know that you've been talking to these guys about some stuff, but you'll have to forgive me because I don't know what this whole conversation's been, all right? What I'm here to talk to you about is the Johns, okay? You work for who? Who do you work for?
Jason John.
Jason, that's the son?
Son.
Okay. Dad just retired,
Yeah.
right? How long have you known those guys? If you had to guess. I'm not going to hold you to exact time, so don't stress about that or anything.
10 years?
About 10 years.
12 years?
And I mean, they obviously trust you because you house set a bunch of times when they go on vacation.
Yeah.
Right? You've done that a bunch, right? For them, house set.
Yeah.
And
I did that.
Jason actually said you're a hard worker. He actually said you're one of his best workers. He says that. I talked to him. He said you're a phenomenal worker. So you were house setting for them this past week, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And how long was that arrangement? Like, when did you guys talk about that? Like, did they come to you and say, "Hey, we're going to be gone. We need somebody"?
It was at least a couple weeks ahead of time.
Okay.
Because they wanted to make sure that I was able to do it, that I didn't have any other plans that would interfere.
Okay.
Can we move those from over? They're kind of distracting.
So you couldn't really count on it. They wouldn't say, "Hey, we're supposed to be home around Sunday at 8." They would say, "We're heading home on Sunday."
Yeah.
So you just kind of
usually about an hour out. They text me. They did Sunday. Said they were shocked.
They did text you Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay.
The detective spends the next 30 minutes asking George questions to verify that he not only knew the Johns, but he was there the day they were murdered. Eventually, George asks what the Johns have to do with Suzanne, and the detective is about to tell him that the Johns' lives were taken.
Right? People want to know what happened to these kids.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely. You asked
what does Stark County got to do with that?
Well, I'm going to get to it. Okay? So the reason that Stark County's here is because, and correct me if I'm wrong, these guys have told you, and in essence, I believe, you're probably the last person that saw these three girls alive. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the coincidence that comes into play with Stark County is you were probably the last person that saw Gene and Bobby alive.
What?
So that's a
whoa.
Hear me out for a second. Hear me out.
It's important.
You asked me a question, I'm going to answer it for you.
No.
Okay?
Listen.
I'm going to answer it for you. I'm going to answer your question for you.
Relax.
So
you gotta listen.
You would agree with me that With that being done, there are a lot of those sticky notes that need answered, right? You would agree with that. Right? You would agree with me on that. And that's why we're here. That's why we're here, George, is we have to clear up these things. And you've been extremely cooperative with these guys today, and we appreciate it because you're helping us clear up and you're actually helping us answer a lot of these questions. All right? Those tears and everything, you love those people. You do. You love them. You don't react like that if you don't care about somebody. There's not a doubt in my mind that you don't care for all three of these girls and that you don't care for those people. Not a doubt in my mind. Your reactions tell me that. That's a human emotion and you can't control it, but your heart feels that. Right? So what I need you to do is help me clear these questions up, George. That's what I need to do. These are all people that you care about. And I know you cared about them. And at this point in time where we're at in our investigation, you're really the only person that we can take these away.
Okay, so, I mean, I thought I would be accused of 3, now it's 5. And no.
Take a second. Think about what happened.
George, what made you think you're being accused? Can you tell me that?
George was so focused on appearing sad after finding out that the Johns were dead that he forgot to ask any questions about it. What happened to them? Was it an accident? George automatically assumes that they were murdered because he believes he is being accused of doing it, even though the detectives never said they think he did it.
What made you think that you're being accused?
Like you said, I'm the last person to see not 3 but 5 people alive.
Okay.
You don't just have questions and send SWAT to the door. That's why I thought I was being accused of these. That's why they came bum rushing the house last night. And the fucking reporter I was talking to.
When did you talk to a reporter?
She texted me yesterday when she found out that I was friends with Sue, Lacey Chris. For 19.
Do you know that? Like, do you know her? Or?
She just wanted to get me to go on camera and talk about the good things about. And I said I won't do that until I talk. Because I was on North Royalton to call.
Okay.
Because I don't know what the procedure is.
Okay. So she was texting you, asking you about this stuff?
She sent me her friend's request.
Is that how you guys were talking? Was on Messenger?
Yeah. And then I was talking to her last night, letting her know that, you know, I had nothing to do with these 3, and that, you know, the cops are outside my house, up and down one way or the other.
Can I ask you a question? Listen, George, look at me. Can I ask you a question? So here's something that's going on in my head. So, an abnormal reaction, right? Like, if the police came to my door, I wouldn't be in a situation where I would retrieve a firearm and then
I had it in the room with me when I saw them.
Listen.
I know.
Listen, look at me. I wouldn't go to a window and put it to my head. I wouldn't sit there as a diabetic and just drink so much sugar that I put myself to a 460 blood sugar level. That's hyperglycemia. You're pushing diabetic ketoacidosis.
My blood sugar has been so high, I've seen always around things.
130.
I know.
Listen, dude,
my average was 550 though.
Listen. I'm not sitting here trying to dispute this, but listen, do you understand how kind of the totality
I see how it looks.
Here's what I'm getting at, George.
I need a cigarette right now, or I can't talk anymore.
Can we finish up? Just a couple
They
things.
keep saying that all day today. I'm sorry.
Look at me. Look at me in the eye. George, look at me. I've talked to a lot of people about you. Okay? They may not like you, but everybody says you say what you think, right? And you tell it how it is. Everybody I've talked to says that. So look at me for a second. I'm telling you right now, and I'm looking you in the eye as a man, you're going to get a cigarette. I promise you that. You're going to get a cigarette. I'm waiting. But I want you to put, there's priorities, right? I mean, you've already agreed with me. This stuff's top priority stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
But it's all about just calming down.
This is a priority. So what we have to do is prioritize. And I understand you want a cigarette, and we're going to help you out with that. But right now, we have some priorities that we got to take care of, bud. We got to get them.
It's kind of like,
You don't understand what I've been through. And now with Gene and Bobby, it's going to be worse. I lost my mother. The only person I gave a shit about me, I lost my brother. And then I lost them. At that point, I didn't care anymore. I don't know if you can understand.
I can absolutely 100. I bet you
I'm
everybody in this
losing
room can understand.
everybody.
Everybody in this room can
I still
understand.
had some people. Amy, she's a great person, but you know what? I'm there just basically to house and dog sit. That's it. If she didn't have dogs, she wouldn't need them.
Okay.
She tried to help me. Taylor was there for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I just lost them.
Mm-hmm. George, let me ask you a question. Let's slow it down a little bit. Take a deep breath. Relax. Okay? Let me ask you a question. With your hand, how did that happen? How did your hand happen?
I got mad at work Friday and I punched a brick wall. I thought it was a fake wall. It turns out it was a real cement wall.
Okay, what'd you get mad at?
We go in there.
It's
It's just work-related stuff. You know, nothing. Stressed. We're not getting out of there fast enough. I don't feel like I'm doing a good enough job. And I just turned around after I got off the phone with Jason to hit the wall. I thought I was hitting the wood wall.
Okay.
I was in the wrong spot and I smacked the cement wall.
Ready for your cigarette? Take a little break. George, it's all about clearing up questions, and you're doing a hell of a job doing it for us. But we have to get rid of them.
I know I understand the question. But
Yep, we have to get rid of these questions.
I know.
And you're the one that can answer them. We don't mean to be personal business, but we gotta do it.
Oh, another one.
Yeah, we're ready for the break. What do we need to do? Relax for this cigarette.
Oh no, I'm used to last night, so I kept my hand up for that. Because I gave it a...
you're okay, man.
George finally gets to smoke the cigarette he has been asking for. While he was outside with the detectives, George tells them something they did not expect.
He kind of said outside spontaneously, and for the family's sake, you're the right guy.
Yes, I did.
Tell me what happened. Like, how did this...
So it's like peeling an onion, you know. The wire is layers of layers.
Things were going fine, we were talking. And then I don't know what set her off. She just started going all batshit crazy. Not swinging or anything, but she just lost her cool.
Has that happened before?
Not to this degree. I mean, she's gone from being okay, or as I used to say, 0 to bitch in less than a second, but nothing like this. I mean, I don't know if it was something I said that set her off, because all we were talking about was how it was, you know, pack up and leave, and, you know, it would probably be better for everybody if I wasn't around, you know, because everybody didn't have to worry or pretend to worry about me. And she just lost it. And then we started screaming and yelling and arguing. And then she got up in my face and I snapped.
What happened? She just right up
Yeah,
your
she
face.
got right up in my face, and I'm not saying I thought she was gonna hit me or anything. I mean, don't take this wrong, she is a female, and yeah, I'm sure they can do some damage, but and I just snapped. I lost control. I completely lost control. I picked her up, threw her to the ground, trying to get her to shut up and stop, and she just wouldn't listen.
Like, almost like a wrestling type of thing, like you picked her up and...
Yeah.
So what happened next?
I took her in her bedroom and I threw her in her bed and told her, just shut the f*** up and chill out, you know? Just chill out. And she just wouldn't shut up. Unfortunately, that's when the girls walked in.
So what happened then?
And I tried to walk away, but...
George finally confesses to taking the lives of Suzanne and her 2 daughters. After they get as many details as possible from George, they move on to his second set of victims.
So can we talk about what happened with the Johns? I just want to get everything out there. And again, I don't think that was something that was planned out. I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but were you panicking? Maybe you felt like you needed to get some money to get out of there. You didn't know what to do. Did you see something? You need to get out of the area.
What, with the John?
Yeah. What happened with them? What happened?
Bobby started in on me because Jack, the dog, had fallen and something had happened to his face. And she had medicine that I was giving him at, once in the morning and once at night to help it heal. And she picked him up and she said it looked worse and that I didn't do anything to take care of the dogs. And then Gene came in and said something about, because I made a mistake and I lit a cigarette in the house. Mm-hmm. And he started going on this holier than thou attitude about smoking, because he's a reformed smoker. Mm-hmm. And I understood why he wanted me to quit. Just the stress from the day before. And then, he had a pistol downstairs that I don't know if he forgot he left out, but when I went down to do laundry, I saw it sitting there, and it was another 1911, chrome plated, and I was like, oh, this is cool, tried twirling it around, but I just couldn't take being yelled at no more. So I told him to go up in the room and shut the fuck up. I was fucking got him. Bobby sat up and was screaming. And all I did is I just said, shut up. And I didn't even know I pulled the trigger. I was just pointing at the guy like you would point your finger at somebody. And next thing you know, let's take a second.
Once again, George claims that he didn't mean to do it, and he only did it because he doesn't like being yelled at. George tries to make himself look like a victim, but in reality, he took the lives of 3 women in their own home, stole what money he could find, then left with some of the victims' hair as a keepsake. The following day, he took 2 more lives, stole what little money they had, and then engaged in a 9-hour standoff with police.
Is the only time that you ever snapped like this?
Yeah, no, there's no more trail of bodies behind me, no. This is something that I never, ever, in my wildest dreams predicted could ever happen. And like I said, yeah, I can lose my temper, but for the most part, I'm pretty level-headed, and I just let it build up and then find ways like reading or PlayStation to burn it off.
In the end, George pled guilty to all 5 murder charges and is currently sitting on death row. On September 27, 2022, the Supreme Court of Ohio scheduled George's execution for September 23, 2026. Thank you for watching this video. I will see you next time here on the Red Tree Crime YouTube channel.